All right, everybody. Good morning and welcome to our Zoom webinar. I am recording this call just so you know. I'm going to record everything that we do here today. And at some point, I'm going to go ahead and post it to YouTube and send you guys a link if you want to watch it again and want to see what's going on. Good morning. My name is Scott Richmond. I work in professional development. With me this morning, I have my colleagues, Lisa Jones. Lisa, I'll unmute you. You can say hi. Lisa doesn't want to be unmuted. Okay, gotcha, Lisa. Lisa's answering the chat window. I'll talk about that in a second. And then my son, Jonathan, who teaches at Newsom High School, is on with us as well.
Hi, guys.
And so this morning, we're going to take you through the Zoom platform. We'll try and show you everything I can about using it as a professional, both with children and with your colleagues. Two things of note. Number one, Paula's here too. Hi, Paula. I got to unmute you. I got to find you and unmute you. Paula is here too, my wife. We are doing a lot of these together, so that we can get as many of you guys in as possible. We had 260 this morning, and as of right now, there's 138 of you. So there's a lot going on. Therefore, your microphone is muted, and it will remain muted throughout the entire call unless I need to show an example. And that's because to have 138 of you talking at the same time would get us nowhere and would take way too much time. But you do have the chat feature enabled, so you should go ahead and click on either the chat button at the bottom of your screen if you're on a computer, it's at the top of your screen if you're on a tablet or a phone, and then you'll see a chat feature there. I have three folks, Lisa Jones, Paula Richmond, and Jonathan Richmond, who'll be answering questions in the chat. They'll also stop me from time to time if they have something they want me to address that I'm going over with you guys, and then we will do a Q&A at the end as well. We're going to take anywhere from 40 to 45 minutes to go through this program with you and give you all the tips and tricks you need to use it with your students. Again, I am recording this call. I will post to YouTube. I will send it to you guys in a link, but it may take a couple days, and we'll be honest, this is probably the 15th call I've done this week already of this same exact chat. I've yet to upload any of them. It's one after another today, and I have 5 today, and this is number 2. So plus I got other stuff for the district business to take care of in between all those calls. So you guys know what it's like adjusting here. It's been the busiest week and a half in my work career in a long time. We've been working nonstop for the last week and a half getting this all ready for you guys, but we're glad you're here. So first of all, when we talk about Zoom, Zoom is a great platform. I've been using it for about 3 or 4 years now. I teach part-time at Florida Southern College, so I discovered it there. My wife and I discovered it there, and I've been using it for my online classes. The great thing is they offer a free account. The bad thing is the free account has 2 very annoying limits on it. Number 1, 100 people max in a chat. Number 2, 40-minute time limit. So if you signed up for a free basic account of Zoom before this, you'd be governed by those 2 rules, and I've used it to my advantage with my students for the first couple of years. I made sure my chats were only 40 minutes long, or we did 2 separate calls. We did a call, and then we hung up and did another call. And that's annoying, but it worked around the system of me not having to pay money out of my pocket. Then I got very lucky a year ago, and Florida Southern bought me a license, a pro license for Zoom. And so I now have no limit on time on my calls, and I can do up to 300 people in the chat, which is why we had 260 this morning and 142 of you right now. Every other one you do with ours is still governed by that 100. The second thing to know about Zoom is, thanks to their graciousness and our district working with them, we have been able to get them to lift the 40-minute time limit. You still have 100 people max, but you now have a longer time limit. So if you want to be online for your students and wait for them to come in and out, you can do that piece for a longer period of time. Many of you who know me know I run the alternative certification program in the county. I have for many years. My trainers started last night using this platform to deliver our classes, and they were able to stay on for the 3-hour session that we do on a weeknight. And then, of course, this Saturday we'll be testing them for 7 and 8 hours throughout the day. So it's a really great opportunity for us. To do that, though, you have to make sure you use your school district email and you log in through Clever. And I'm going to show you that in just a moment. So those are just a couple things to keep tabs of ahead of time. Second thing you want to make sure you're aware of is FERPA. You're not familiar with FERPA. It's the Rights and Privacy Act from the federal government for students and student information and student images. So as you can see, I've enabled your cameras for this chat, and you can turn them on and off as you will. If you don't want me to see your face, that's fine. Actually, I've got 6 pages of you guys in a Brady Bunch looking thing. And so I only see 25 of you right now, and I'm one of them. So I don't see all of you. That's not a big deal. But when you have your students online, This is the message I'm giving out on this piece. I would have student videos turned off for FERPA purposes. Now, that again is up to you and you talking with and working with your principal. I understand the connection piece, ladies and gentlemen. It is a really important piece, the connection piece. And one of our friends, she teaches music in a middle school, but has a first grade daughter, and sent a picture on Facebook yesterday of her daughter on Zoom with her friends from her class. And the girl was so excited because she hadn't seen him in a week and a half. And she's bored to tears without people around, just her mom and dad and her little baby brother. So I understand that connection piece, but you may want to have videos off at least initially, or put them on and turn them off. If you're going to record a session, like I'm recording this session, you definitely want to have student videos off. We cannot post student videos to YouTube. We cannot post student videos anywhere on the internet. We don't want to do that. That's a FERPA violation. What your principal may opt for, especially you elementary folks out there, they may say, you know what, turn the video on and get started and do a little happy welcome, thank you back thing. And then when you get to the lesson you're going to record, turn it off. And so I'll show you, you can record the lesson and that kind of stuff. I'll show you that happens, but that's just something to think about with that process. Okay. All right. So Lisa has left us, Paula and Jonathan, because Carrie needed an extra monitor for her. So it's just you guys on this one. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen with you guys a whole lot. I'm going to show you a bunch of websites and images and things like that throughout this training. I'll show you every feature in this program that I know how to use and how to use those features and suggestions on how to use it with your students. But realize this, you also have the option to share your entire screen. Now, I've done that before, but the problem with Zoom is that when I share my entire screen, the Zoom windows disappear. It shows everything else. That's not very useful when I'm trying to teach you how to use a program that I want to show you what it looks like. So I've taken a series of screenshots of my screen as I go through, and I've got those lined up for us today. So first, we're going to start out with, I'm going to show you the Clever website. And many of you have gotten used to the Clever website already. If you haven't gotten on here, it really is a great thing. I'm going to log into my Clever using Active Directory. And if you haven't done this yet, the login again is your Lawson number at hcps.net, and then it's your district password. When you log into Clever, and I've got to go in as a teacher because I've got multiple logins, you're going to come to your Clever dashboard. Now, if you're not familiar with this dashboard, it's a very great thing that you have a favorite section up here. And you can see I used Clever a whole bunch last spring when I was teaching 5th grade at James Elementary School. I had iReady, Khan Academy, Typing Club, stuff for my kids they could use. I've also since added Zoom to my favorites. Now, if you have no favorites, that's okay. When you scroll to the bottom of your screen, you'll see more apps, and here is the Zoom app. You can click it here. You can click the little heart. That'll favorite it, put it back up at the top where I have mine so I can access it very easily. Also on this page, you have the e-learning for school closure section, which should have pertinent information, lessons, and resources for you to use while instructing your students. Realize this page changes almost hourly. I have seen 6 different iterations of this. When I first came on, I had just these 2. Then I got Edsby, then I got these, and yesterday midday I got this one. So keep checking back. You will find more information there coming from your content supervisors. They've been working throughout spring break as well to try and bring you this information. I am going to click on the Zoom icon now. It's going to take me directly to the Zoom website, and it should automatically log you in using your school district email. This is your basic account that's been given to you, and what you may get, if you haven't gone here before, you may get a prompt. It may say, do you want to join Troy Suarez's account? Troy Suarez. If it does that, Troy is not a stalker. He's not a dangerous person. You can laugh, by the way. It's okay. We're here all day. Troy is our district instructional technology supervisor. He has set all this up for us through the Clever login to give you this piece. So what he's done is he's kept the meeting at 100, but notice up here, my time limit is no longer there. The 40-minute time limit has been lifted. Now, this is my school district account. This is not my Florida Southern account. We're chatting via my Florida Southern account, so I can have more than 100 of you in at the same time. But this is an important dashboard page to kind of look at your piece. And, you can pay for Zoom on your own if you want to once things are done. That's entirely up to you if it's a platform you want to keep using for whatever purpose. The free account worked for me for a while. I'm lucky and grateful that Florida Southern's given me that full piece. There are 3 other things I want to show you on this page. I do want to show you the meetings tab where you can schedule meetings very, very easily. You notice here I have several meetings set up already in my district account. And to set up a new meeting, all I do is click on schedule new meeting. When I do that, it gives me an option to set up a title. So I'm going to call this My Fake Meeting Number 5. You guys can laugh anytime you want. I'm here all day. I can change the date to whatever I want. Let's have this one tomorrow on the 26th. I can change the time to not 12 a.m., 12 p.m. And what I want you guys to realize is the only thing that matters here is the date. The time is more of a calendar piece. I opened up our chat 15 minutes early so that I can talk to Paula and Jonathan and Lisa ahead of time and have a conversation about what my expectations are for this chat. I have a new moderator coming to moderate my next chat at 1 o'clock. I'm going to let her in early so we can have a conversation ahead of time of what I plan to do and things like that. So that's the beauty of it. If you're like a co-teacher or you have another colleague or para or someone else who's going to do a lesson with you, you can let them in early and leave everybody else in the waiting room. Duration, same thing. There is nothing to this. I mean, I changed it to 2 hours because my Zoom chats are an hour and I want to block off my calendar for 2 hours. That's kind of what I want to do. But this does not mean that at 2 hours, boom, you're cut off. It does not mean that at all. It just sets a calendar invite for that purpose. Obviously, time zone, we're on Eastern time zone. We don't change that. And then recurring meeting here, this is if you're going to do the same thing over and over again. Now, I've not done it because each of my chats are different, and I don't want the people from the 8:30 chat showing up at the 10 o'clock chat, and I have 300 people again. But if I were doing something with my students, like every day at 9 o'clock in the morning from 9 to 9:30, I'm going to do a math lesson. I could set that up at recurring. Or let's say I'm going to do my lessons in the morning, 8, 9, 10, 11, 30 minutes each for my students. And then in the afternoon, I set up from 1 to 2 office hours. When I go on Zoom, I give a running meeting and the kids can pop in and pop off every single day to see me if they need help, only if they need help, kind of like an office hours thing, okay? By the way, as we're talking about time and things like that, you typically would have kids for 47, 48, 50 an hour in a subject. Cut that in half, ladies and gentlemen. If you're going to spend time online with them, plan to cut that in half and chunk it down a little bit. We're not expecting you to, cross the Atlantic Ocean with the kids in the next 4, 6, 8, 9 weeks, however long we're on this at-home work. But they got other teachers or other subjects, so make sure it's not just you you're worried about. Meeting ID, you can use a personal meeting ID, but I don't. I just let it generate it automatically. It changes all the time. And meeting password, I use that because, again, I have large numbers, but you may not need this feature when you're using it with your students. You may just be able to turn that feature off and just uncheck that box is all you do. This next section is the really important one, the video section. Notice by default, if I don't change any settings, it has video off for both me and you, okay? I can turn video on. I just do that and that. I did that today. I turned your video on and my video on. That gives you the right to turn your video on or off. It gives me the right to turn my video on or off. If I were doing this with students and I'm going to record it, I click off for students. That way, when I go to record, the students can't accidentally turn their video on, and now I've got to erase that or fix it or edit it or start over or whatever that is. There is a way to manually edit video or turn it on and off once you're in the chat. I'll show you that one in a moment, but this is kind of like something to think about if you're going to record it. Audio. I leave it on both. And by the way, it's a good thing too, because I know at least one of you, I saw just a phone number come up. You dialed in, and that's a great thing because you may have kiddos who don't have internet that's reliable at home. They haven't gotten their laptop issued from the district yet. They may have 5 kids at the house and they only got 1 device. They can call in with a telephone and still listen to what you guys are doing if you leave this option on both. So that's a great thing to leave out there. Down at the bottom, meeting options. Never, never, never enable join before host. If you notice, you guys went in the waiting room and it said you're waiting for the host to start the meeting. That's because I didn't want you in here doing things behind my back. Imagine this for a moment. You got your chat set up for 2 o'clock this afternoon with your kids. You enable join before host. At 1:45, you plan to start the meeting. Your dog throws up all over the carpet. You're going to go clean up the vomit, aren't you? I mean, I'm sorry, it's vomit. It is. Dogs do that, right? You're not going to go start the chat. And now your kids have gotten in behind your back, and who knows what they're doing without you there actually watching them. So I would not enable this feature no matter what. The next 2, though, are my 2 favorites. Mute participants on entry. That's why when you came on board, your microphone was already muted. I didn't have to think about it. It was done already. So a great way to bring your kids on. That's how I was able to say, hey guys, can you hear me? Blah, 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 blah. Welcome, blah, blah, blah. Enable waiting room. I like that one as well. And by the way, we've tested it now. We tested it again this morning on both chats this morning. You can't interact with other people while you're in the waiting room. You just kind of sit there and wait for us to come in. I don't use this next feature, authenticated users. We'll talk about breakout rooms at a later time in this session. And last but not least, if you want to remember to record your meeting, click on this box. It'll do it automatically for you without you thinking about it. But again, if you're going to do that, your participant video should be off. That way they don't have a chance to turn it on when they come on. There is a way to start recording once you start the meeting. I will show you that feature again later on in this piece. I'm going to click Save to save my meeting. It gives me a summary page. Notice it's my fake meeting number 5. Here's my calendar invites. Here is the meeting ID. Here is the password. Here is the link. I can copy the invitation by clicking on this here. It gives me this nice invitation that I sent out to you guys both last night and this morning. I just copied the meeting invitation. One note on this meeting invitation though, you see this last line on the bottom. None of us in PD have figured out why it exists. We haven't figured that one out yet, so I just erase it when I send the meeting invite out, and I don't send it out to kids. Now, how can you send out this meeting invite to people? You can do it one of 3 ways. Number 1, you can do it on Edsby. You can copy and paste this data into Edsby on the feed. You can do it on the email. I'm thinking of you primary teachers. Your parents may want to jump on with the kids on a separate computer. Maybe they're a first responder. They have to be in an office. Those kinds of things. They want to be on there and see what their child is doing at least once or twice. You can send it out to parents that way too. You could use a text message. You could do it that way if you wanted to, although I don't recommend texting students. The second feature, though, related to that, number 3, is Remind. Yesterday, Paula and I sent out a Remind, and the only stuff we copied was right here in the middle of the screen. We copied that and we pasted it into Remind and sent it out to her kids. And she did several orientations with them and the parents last night and some more today. So that's that meeting invitation. You can also edit your meeting anytime you want coming in, and you can start your meeting as well from this handy dandy page. Click Start and it opens up. Again, this time is irrelevant except for your calendar. You can start it early and let people in whenever you want. The second thing I'll show you on here is the settings page. Now, I have not messed with any of my default settings except for the one I want to show you here, and that's because of the way I'm doing this, guys. Every time, now on my Florida Southern account, I've messed with the settings because I don't want to look at those for you guys. But on this one, this is what you'll see. There are default settings. I don't mess with them at all. But about a third and a half, halfway down the screen, you have an In-Meeting Advanced section. This is where the breakout room feature is. If this is something you want to try, you must enable it here first before you open your chat. If you open your chat without this enabled, you won't have that feature. So this is one of those reasons you have to come to the website ahead of time, is to go ahead and turn this thing on if you want to have that feature enabled. And I'll talk about how to use it when we get to that later on in this session. Okay, I'm going to go back up to the top now. And I'm going to go up here to resources. The third thing I want to show you on this website, where you can download the free Zoom client. This is an important feature too. If you're on a computer, you probably want to use the client. It is more user-friendly than being in a web browser. It has more features than being in a web browser. And it has some neat things you can do with the program itself. Many of you today might be on an iPad, Android tablet, or an iPhone, Android phone, and that's fine too. Just a personal preference here. 95% of the meetings I moderate are done on my laptop or my desktop that I'm sitting in front of right now. 95%. And the reason is when I'm moderating, I'm the host, I got to have all these features available, easy to find. If you're on an iPad right now or a phone or an Android phone or something like that, and you click on the chat button, you notice it puts a floating window over top of everything else. When you're on a computer, it gives you a separate window so you can still see the people or whatever you're working on. So that's why I like this piece better. The other reason is I'm going to click out of this window real quick, and you guys don't know I'm clicking out, but I'm clicking out anyway. And notice I'm still moving. You still see me. You see my face. I'm smiling. I'm talking, all that stuff. When I did this on my iPad the first time for my students, and I was out of town, I had to do a chat with them, I went to switch screens to find a document I wanted to share with them. The second I switched screens, it did this to my face. It froze it. Now, you can laugh at me. It's okay, because the next time I got froze like this. So you want to be very careful about that if you're going to use an iPad or iPhone as the host, that if you're going to change screens, you got to remember to do this before it does that, or turn off your video, however you want to do that piece. So that's something else to think about as you set this up and get it running. I would try and do it from a computer. I know not everybody has a camera on their computer. That's an issue. I think, Jonathan, you're on your iPad for that reason. Am I correct? Yep.
Yes.
His computer doesn't have a camera yet. He's going to get one. So just something to think about with the website. I'm going to stop that share. I'm going to bring you guys back in with me. And what I want to show you now is I want to show you two different things. I'm going to show you, first of all, the different views that you can use on this particular piece. You got a question, Jonathan, for me?
I do want to pause for 1 second. If you are not able to see either me or my father, Scott, that may be because you're not in a gallery view.
I'm about to show them that, so hold that thought for 1 second.
Perfect.
Yep, that's where we're going. All right, so by default, I'm going to share a bunch of screenshots with you now of what this looks like on my side, okay? So first of all, this is what Jonathan was talking about. If your screen looks somewhat like this, oh, look how I caught you, son. That's just great. And me, I'm in the middle of talking. This is called the speaker view. This is the speaker view. There's also something called the gallery view. This is the gallery view, and this is the gallery view. It's like a Brady Bunch. So if when we go back to that main window, yours looks like this. In the upper right-hand corner of your screen, you should have a button there that says Gallery View. If you're on a mobile device, you have something that looks like a waffle. And you click on that, and that'll change you into the Gallery View, which is like this. It's much more user-friendly. So this is an example of my window, what I see. This is an example of my window with the big Brady Bunch going on. This is what I see. I'm going to go through each of the menus with you now, and then I'll take you into each menu individually and show you what it does. So first of all, down here at the bottom left, you have two items here. You have a mute button that relates to all the sound related to your particular computer. You have video, which relates to your video for your particular computer. These two features, ladies and gentlemen, on the left, mute and stop video, are only about you and your device. It is not about your participants at all. You can't edit anything with your participants on these two items here. I'll show you where you edit them a little bit later on. Then you have the invite button. This is if you want to add somebody after you've already started your chat. This is if you haven't done that invite that we did ahead of time on the website and emailed it out to people or sent it via Edsby. Manage participants. I'm going to show you a lot on this one. This is how you figure out who's in your chat and what features they have and don't have. It's where you can mute everybody, you can unmute everybody, you can enable that waiting room and things like that, and we'll talk about that one too. I'm going to use this one a lot for you sharing my screen. I'll show you how that works. We've already addressed the chat feature, which is now for me on the right-hand side. As you can see, this is the participant window, but in this one here, I have the chat window as well. So that's a useful feature for me. The record button, if you didn't set up recording ahead of time, or like the example I said, you want to do 10 minutes of meet and greet and welcome back everybody, I'm glad to see you, you wouldn't set up the recording ahead of time. Once it starts, you click record. Now it's going to give you two options. It's going to let you record to your computer or to the cloud. Highly recommend you record to the computer. We'll talk about breakout rooms in a minute. Reactions you can play with if you want. I haven't had a use for them yet because all I do is this same thing over and over again all day long. And then you have an end meeting piece over here, and you guys, it says leave meeting. So that's what my view looks like when I look at you guys, and I'm going to bring you guys back into this main window. That's exactly what I'm seeing right now. I see 25 of you in a Brady Bunch. I see the chat over here on the right-hand side, and at the bottom I have these menus that come in and out. And by the way, we're up to 149 people now, so that's fantastic. Let me now take you back to my screenshots, and we're going to go into some of those windows. So first of all, we're going to talk about the mute button. So this is the mute button on Windows. What I've tried to do for you guys is give you a couple screenshots from Windows, and the rest are from my Mac because I work off a Mac. The two differences are Windows uses light backgrounds. I like dark mode on my Mac, so I have dark mode, so I don't have to have all those bright things in the background. That's the major difference. Second, some of the menus may be in a different order, but they're all in the same spot. So this right here is nothing more than you doing your own Windows, your own computer, doing your own microphone, your own speakers, making sure they work, testing them, all that kind of stuff. That's what this menu is all about. The next one over is the video button. And here you have options such as which camera you want to use. For example, if you're on a device that has multiple cameras, you may be able to use multiple cameras. Virtual background, I'll talk about in a minute and show you guys. Video settings, I want to change and touch up my appearance. Yes, you can actually touch up your appearance. It made me look worse. You can laugh, it's okay. It's okay. All right. Then you also have a video in Windows. Here's it in Windows. Notice the menus are flipped. In the Mac one, virtual background was above it, and in the Windows one, virtual background was below it. So it's the same thing, just a little bit mixed up. So I'm going to show you a virtual background for me, and let's see where I want to go today. Yep, I am missing Disney. I'm going to go to Disney today. So here I am in Disney World. If you want to use virtual backgrounds, you need to understand two things about it. Number one, your ability to use this will depend on if your computer or device is fast enough and capable enough of doing this. Oh, John's in front of my new favorite ride. Love it. Yes. That's the first thing you need to understand, if your computer can handle it. My MacBook laptop is too old, can't handle virtual backgrounds, but my iMac I'm sitting in front of right now can. So hence I have a virtual background. Number two, when you set up the virtual background, make sure that you are not wearing a color that blends in with either the background or the image too much. If not, you're gonna get what happened yesterday. This poor lady went on, did a virtual background, her whole body disappeared, she had a floating head. Okay, that happens, Or like when I move my hands, notice they sometimes disappear a little bit into the background. I'm sitting in front of what in essence is a light green wall and levelor blinds, which are white. So that's why it's doing a pretty good job of clouding out my background, but my cup has white in it, and when I do that, sometimes part of it disappears too, depending upon the angle and where I'm at. So those kinds of things can happen with a virtual background. When you want to set the virtual background up, you click on that up arrow next to stop video and click on choose virtual background. And when you do that, you will get this window I'm going to share with you now. And again, this is my Mac version, but the Windows one is very similar. And notice it shows you what you look like right now. It has a none feature. Sometimes they come populated with images. Others you can add on your own. So the example I've given you right now, I downloaded from the web because I wanted a picture of the train station in Magic Kingdom with nobody at it but Mickey and Minnie. And you can see Mickey and Minnie are there in the middle if I move out of the way. But other images I've done myself, I've downloaded myself, put them up there, and now I have a virtual background behind me because sitting in this room, as I have all day, every day for probably the last 4 or 5 days, Paula, right? About that? Yep. Gets kind of boring with the same background. So every time I do a chat, I pick a different background to show people. And that's kind of what I've been doing and having fun with it. I've had a few colleagues who are teaching in Hogwarts now. They're teaching in Hogwarts. So kind of great thing you think about, you're a professor there. So, all right. That's the virtual background piece in there. We talked about the invite piece. I'm going to talk now about participants and managing participants. I'm going to show you two particular windows on that. The first one is what I see when I go into manage participants. This is back before the class started. This is the wait room. This is where many of you guys were waiting before you came in. And this is the people in the meeting. So at the time, it was just Barb and I. Notice she has a red line through her camera. That means her camera is turned off. You all have a red line through your microphone, meaning your microphone is turned off. Some of you, like Mary Braverman, have your camera turned off, so you have a red line through both of them. Up here, I have an option to admit all of you at the same time, and that's how I did it this morning when I got enough of you in there, and it was 9:59. I clicked that button, y'all came in. I can also message you guys ahead of time, which I did as well. I messaged you guys in there ahead of time in doing that piece. There's also in the same window a mute all and unmute all button. So if you want to mute everybody or unmute everybody at the same time, this is in the manage participants window. There's also a more button. So here's that more button, and I've clicked on that, and you can see that there are several options. So I've got the mute participants on entry enabled, meaning when you guys came in, you couldn't have your microphone on. I've also unchecked allow participants to unmute themselves. Now, when I'm doing this with my Florida Southern classes and I have 25 or 30 people, I tell them, guys, mute yourself and unmute yourself if you want to talk. End of story. Your kiddos may not be able to do that. 148 people in the chat may not be able to do that. Allow participants to rename themselves. If I'm doing this with students, I might uncheck this box as well. I taught both, actually I taught 5th through 9th grade in my career, and I know a few of my students that last year when I was at James would have changed their name to Doofus or something else inappropriate. So you can uncheck this box, they won't be able to rename themselves. You can lock the meeting so no one else can come in once you've started. I don't ever use that feature. And then this is, if you use the waiting room, once you hit admit all, you need to uncheck this box. Otherwise, people still get stuck in the waiting room. And yesterday or Monday, I had like 10 people stuck in the waiting room for 10 minutes. I forgot about it. So unchecking this box turns off the wait room and lets them come back in. Really quickly, you can rename yourself. That's the beauty of this program. So even though your name may not show up correctly, like Dale Thompson, I know you're not Dale. You might be somebody else. So if you hover your mouse over your picture, if you're on a laptop, a tablet or a phone, you may have to touch your picture. You get 3 dots in the top right-hand corner. And you can click on those 3 dots and go to rename and rename yourself. Now, Thompson, are you Miss or Mrs.? Mrs. Okay. So I'm going to rename you so I can show them that I can rename everybody as well in that piece. So if you uncheck that box that kids can rename themselves, and you can go in and rename them, and I'd only put their first name, but you can also rename yourself and put in Mrs., Mr., Doctor, whatever you are, to make sure that your name shows up appropriately as well. So another neat piece there about doing that, you can edit that feature and not allow them to have that option. The other thing that's really neat in this section is you can have kids raise a virtual hand. So at the bottom or top of your screen, depending upon if you're on a mobile device or on a desktop laptop, you can click on where it says participants, and you should have an option to raise your virtual hand, and a little blue hand will go up in the corner of your screen. The neat feature about this when you have one screen of people is I can see who raises their hand, and I can uncheck them and do things like that. And I can then ask them if they want to speak. So for example, here we go, Natasha Matos. I lowered your hand, and say hi to everybody.
Hello.
All right. And then Ronnie Hartman, I'm going to lower your hand. I'm going to unmute you. Say hi to everybody.
Hi.
All right. And then Mrs. Ford, lower your hand, unmute you. Say hi to everybody.
Hi.
All right. And now unmute you back. So a neat feature there where kids can raise a virtual hand if you want them to be able to raise their hand to answer a question, whatever it may be, go their turn. If you don't want to have them all on at the same time, that's a feature that gives you that piece. There's also a reactions piece. Some of you are giving a thumbs up, and that's a neat feature as well. When I see the raise hand, this is what I see from my end. And when I hover over you, it gives me the option to lower your hand. And then over on this side, I have your unmute button where I can unmute you and let you talk for a moment. So another neat thing to kind of interact with your kids if you don't want to let them all talk at the same time. All right, so that's manage participants. I'm going to come back to share screen later because I have a whole lot of things to show you on share screen. I'm going to move to the chat feature. When you go to the chat session, what is really neat about the chat session is you can have a whole conversation over there. So I'm going to show you 3 different examples. This first example is just an open chat with Barb and myself. Everybody has this link here of who they want to chat with. You as the host can change who they chat with. You also have this 3-dot menu option I'll show you in a minute. So here, if I type a message, it goes to everyone who's in the chat right now. Right now, it's only Barb and I. On this example here, I can show you several windows that can change settings and things like that. So for example, the everyone, I can change it to say, I can text you privately. So Mrs. Hartman, if you weren't paying attention, I can put you up there and say, Mrs. Hartman, you're not paying attention. And then that would go only to you and not to everybody. In this screen, you can see when I click on the 3 dots, this is the Windows version, participant can chat with no one, host only, everyone publicly, and privately. In these 4 menus, these are what are called a hierarchical menu. So no one means no one. Host is you can message me, I can message you. Everyone publicly means you can message publicly and you can message the host. And then everyone publicly and privately is a bad idea for us because if kids can message each other privately without us seeing it, that is not a good thing. You don't want to have that happen because then they can send messages you're not able to monitor and you've got an issue there. So this is a feature when you start your chat, I definitely click these 3 dots. I go to make sure it's everyone publicly It's also one of the settings you can adjust on that website page under settings. Here it is in the Mac version. And again, here you can see I was privately messaging with Sam Weiss in this spot. And again, I have everyone publicly shown up here in my chat feature. Zoom does save the chat when you're done. It creates a text file with the chat feature. So if you've used that and enabled it, it'll show up automatically. I'm going to come back to record and breakout rooms a little bit later because they're the last two features I cover. But I want to show you the sharing piece now, because the sharing piece is really important. You're going to want to share a lot of things with your students. And this is an example of what it looks like on a Windows computer. Now, what this screen will show by default, it will always show the screen on your computer. You can share the whole screen. It'll show a virtual whiteboard we're going to play with in a moment. It'll show any devices you've connected to your computer many times, like an iPad. You can do an Elmo, anything like that. And then it will show any open windows. So for example, in this screenshot, I could have shared this Google window with you guys. Or in this screenshot, this is my Mac, obviously a lot more open. I could share anything I have open ahead of time. That could be a PowerPoint, it could be a PDF file, Word document, website, anything like that, a video. I can show you guys what I'm seeing through Zoom in that way and broadcast it to you. That's a really neat feature. So when I go to share items, that's all I'm doing. I hit the share button and this window comes up and I click what I want to share with you. And when I'm done, I have a floating window at the top that says stop share and I click on stop share. So another really cool feature there. I'm going to share now with you guys the virtual whiteboard because that's a really cool feature people like and things they can do with their students. This is the virtual whiteboard. I can do two or three things on here. I can write in text, such as a problem. I can draw with a pencil. I can add in stickers and other kinds of stuff. But it's not just me. Somewhere on your screen, you have a view options button, and some have figured it out already. In the view options button, you have another button that says annotate. When you click that, you will get a floating menu of windows that you can use to then write and type on this screen with us. And I'll give you a couple minutes to play around with that. And as you can see, with 148 people in the chat, it gets to be pretty intense. Now, I do not know who's doing what. There is no way to know who's doing what, so you're going to have to put some classroom management controls in place for using this. But one beauty of it is if I close it out like now and I can bring it right back. As long as I didn't hit erase, it saves what we had before. You'll notice we have a save feature in our floating windows. I can also clear the entire board at any time and let you guys start again. Students can share a virtual whiteboard with you. You can change share options. I'll show you that one as well. It's a really neat feature to be able to show and work on things with kiddos. Now that I've shown you, though, the virtual whiteboard and the annotate, by the way, you can annotate any document you share with kids. So I'm thinking of you elementary teachers. We were working so hard before spring break on the writing assessment. That's about to come up, and now it's not going to come up. You're all depressed about it now, aren't you? Yeah, the kids aren't taking the writing test. But you still may want to work on writing with them. And so you could put an article out here, just like I have the whiteboard, and I could mark up the first one and text mark it and say, we're doing an opinion piece, underline, check plus, this is something that's for, check minus, this is against. And then I can say, okay, Natasha, you're going to do the second one. Jody, you're going to do the third one. And I can let the kids do that with me the same way I might if I was in my classroom with my Elmo. So it gives you some great features. Math teachers, you can put a series of problems up there. You can have each person do a different problem, and they can do it live in real time together, and you can help each other out. Thank you. Love this training. I love you guys too. That's fantastic. You made my day. I only got 3 more this afternoon. But this is a great feature for us. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this out, and whoever gets to it first, I'm going to give you the option to share something. Click on that share screen button, and there we go. Mr. Richmond, you took over first. All right, there you go. We see we've got his. And what's really cool is I can make annotations on here as well. So notice I'm writing on his screen no matter what he's showing me. Yep. All right, unshare, please, for me.
There you go.
And then somebody else who wants to share, go for it. All right, so we have a virtual whiteboard. Now, to know about sharing, default feature is this. If I am sharing, nobody else can. If I'm sharing, nobody else can. The virtual whiteboard is in the share screen button. It'll say whiteboard. If you're sharing, nobody else can interrupt you except me. So somebody else share real quick and I'll stop you. Thank you very much, Janet. And I'm going to stop you from sharing. So I have control over that the entire time. I also have a menu where I can change the setting. Okay.
On my, okay. All right, so let me share, and I know everybody's asking about the annotate and where do we find this. Okay, so first of all, the whiteboard. Oh, okay, so I've got somebody who's
I'm going to stop them.
Sharing the whiteboard. When you go to share, you'll see options. Okay, so that person just had a whiteboard here. I'm going to share whiteboard. So when I share the whiteboard, to the right-hand side at the top of your screen, you'll have the options, and that's where you'll be able to see the annotate. You have to go up to view options at the top.
Yep, and I've got the same thing on my end of things. And let me take a screenshot while we're here so y'all can see what it looks like. And then I'll show it to y'all. Because now I'm looking at it as if I'm a participant. All right, go ahead and unshare that, Paula, and I'll share this screenshot I just took so they can see that piece.
Yeah, you have to hover over at the top sometimes.
So this is what I'm seeing when she was sharing, guys. This is that menu. It says view options up here, and here's the annotate button. Now, if you're on a tablet or a phone, you may have to point your finger somewhere to get the menu to come up. It's a floating menu. It comes and goes. It comes in and out through that process.
And it's the same thing with PC.
So that is a share feature. I'm going to turn off your sharing options now. So now you can't share, only I can. And we're going to go to the last feature I want to share with you, which is the breakout rooms, because we're going to run out of time very quickly. Breakout rooms is a great feature, but you need to be careful if you use it, because you want to make sure that you can be monitoring your students. And what you'll find is that if you put kids in a breakout room, you can't monitor them. So there are two pieces to the breakout room. The first one is this one here. This is the menu that comes up when I click on this breakout room tab. Now, only I have this because I'm the host. You won't have it right now. I have it. I'm the host. I click on breakout rooms, and then see, it gives me an option. I have 90 people in this chat. This was from Monday. I put them in 10 rooms, so it puts 9 people per room. For me, I do automatically because I'm just demonstrating the feature. For you, you probably want to do manually. Where could this feature be useful without putting kids in the room by themselves? You have a paraprofessional you work with. You have a co-teacher you work with. You have them all in one big Zoom chat, and then you're going to break it up so that 5 kids go with Mr. Richmond and the other 25 stay with you. You can set up the rooms manually by clicking on manually. With 158 people or 140 people in this thing right now, I click manually. It'll be too much to look at. But that's kind of what it is, and then you click create breakout room. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to create the breakout room for you guys. I'm going to put you guys into rooms. And when you get there, you will find out that you can do two things now. Number one, you will be able to unmute yourself so you can have a conversation. Number two, you'll be able to share stuff like the whiteboard or any documents, and you can have a conversation about how you may use some of the features that we have been talking about so far. So I'm going to send you guys to your breakout rooms now, and I'll pop into some of them and say hello. Hello, breakout room 1.
Hi, how's it going?
Good, yourselves?
Doing good.
I'll let y'all play around for a minute, and I'll talk to you in a little bit.
because I teach sixth grade, and
Hi, Breakout Room
whenever
two.
I have trouble with technology in my classroom, I just say, "Who in here can come help me?" And they all know how to fix it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Hi, Scott.
Hi, guys. I'm going to jump to a different room.
Okay.
I'll see you back in a little bit.
About release remote.
Hi, guys. Oh, hey, Jonathan.
Hey, quick question for you while you're here.
Yep.
On Stephanie's asking on the share screen option, there was release remote.
Or request. to
Yeah,
release.
no, that's just for them to control your computer. No, no,
Okay.
no. Yep.
Okay.
Sorry.
Hi, Breakout Room 7.
Hi.
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 Pop in. I see you guys are whiteboarding. Fantastic. See you back in a few minutes.
Hey.
Hi, Breakout Room 11. How are you guys?
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
some of you haven't
Good.
unmuted yet. There you go.
Yeah.
All right,
Can
I'm going
only
to pull everybody
see a
back
couple
now.
people. Okay.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm going to share something with you real quick and wait for folks to come back in here with us. This is the window I see when I click on breakout rooms once you guys have left. It gives me the breakout room number. I can leave. I was in breakout room 3 at this point. I can leave it. I can join another. But you need to understand 2 things about breakout rooms. Number 1, the second the students leave, you can't monitor them unless you're in there. So unless you really trust your kids, the feature you may or may not want to use. And number 2, if you set this thing up, you can only go into one room at a time. So I popped in like 4 or 5 rooms and then came back and closed them all, had you guys come back. So I think this is a very valuable tool if you're doing it, say, with a co-teacher. But if you're doing it by yourself, you may or may not want to do this unless you really trust your kiddos to do what they're supposed to do when you're not there. So that is the breakout room feature. Again, another neat piece that you can do in this process. The last thing I want to show you is what happens when you record information. So when I hit the stop record button, this program will automatically save it for me. And so here is my window. Somewhere on your computer, whether it be on Mac or Windows or even an iPad or tablet, you're going to have a documents folder, and it's going to create a folder in there called Zoom, just like this one here. Okay, it's called Zoom. It will save everything in there by date and time. So this is our meeting right now. Nothing's saved yet because we're not done. This is the one I did at 8:30 this morning. And notice I have a file here. This is MP4. I have an audio file. I have a chat. And I can rename this file. I can rename it and call it Zoom Webinar 3/25/2020. And this was 8:30 a.m. This way I can go upload these later to YouTube. And I can send you guys a link. You can watch it again. I can also review the chat. It's a text file, see all the questions I may or may not have missed, and go back and answer those questions at a later time, or even put together like a video lesson. Some common questions I've gotten earlier in the day and in previous days were, Scott, can I do a Zoom recording with nobody on with me and just show everything I want to show the kids and then send it on YouTube? Yes, you can. Many of the things I took screenshots of, I took them by myself. It was just easy to do it that way. So you can do that kind of piece. Can I, do a video with just my teammates and we do something together? Yes, you can. You can do that kind of piece and then video it and put it online. However you want to use this tool, it's there for your use. I'm going to stop our